The Biafran Liberation Army battles Nigerian Army and Ebubeagu security forces in Orlu, Imo State. Some eyewitness alleged that the Nigerian Army and security forces are attacking and killing young men in Orlu, Imo State, claiming they are members of the Biafran Liberation Army. He stated that instead of confronting armed fighters in the forests, the Nigerian military is attacking civilians, arresting and even executing them. He claims that since the arrest of Biafra Prime Minister Simon Ekpa, the southeastern region has been under severe military oppression. He accuses Nigerian President Bola Tinubu and General Christopher Musa of orchestrating killings and economic sabotage in the southeast. He warns that if the violence continues, retaliation will follow, with evidence being provided to justify future actions. He alleged that the Nigerian military presence in the southeast is not for security, but for the exploitation of the region's natural resources. Reports suggest that many villages in the southeast are becoming ghost towns as people flee due to military aggression. I remember the day I first heard about the events unfolding in Orlu, a town in the heart of Imo State in Nigeria. It was a day that started like any other, with the sun rising over the familiar landscapes and people beginning their daily routines. Yet there was an undercurrent of anxiety that I could not quite explain at first. Later that day, as I sat quietly at home and listened to the radio and watched videos on my mobile phone, I came across a report that would soon occupy my thoughts and stir emotions that I had long thought were buried under the routine of everyday life. The story told of a bitter confrontation between the Biafran Liberation Army and the combined forces of the Nigerian Army and the Ebubeagu security forces. It was not just a military skirmish in a distant land, it was a narrative filled with personal loss, collective suffering, and a sense of injustice that resonated deeply with many who had grown up in or cared about that region. I was struck first by the accounts of an eyewitness who described scenes that were both heart-wrenching and shocking. This eyewitness explained that the Nigerian Army and the Ebubeagu security forces were not simply engaging with enemy combatants in the thick forests that bordered the settlements, but were instead turning their weapons on the local civilians. According to this account, young men who were simply trying to live their lives were being arrested and in some cases executed under the pretext that they were members of the Biafran Liberation Army. The eyewitness told me that instead of confronting the armed fighters who were hidden away in the wilderness, the military had chosen to target these vulnerable individuals, leading to a cascade of tragedies that left entire families in mourning. Listening to this account, I could not help but reflect on the history of the region and the struggles that had shaped it. The story reminded me of a time when communities in southeastern Nigeria had thrived on traditions of unity and resilience. I recalled the warm greetings exchanged between neighbors, the vibrant markets where people bartered goods with genuine smiles, and the communal spirit that had once defined everyday life. Now, however, the narrative was different. The tale of the Nigerian Army's actions in Orlu painted a picture of a people under siege, not from an external enemy at the border, but from forces that were meant to protect them. I felt an overwhelming mix of anger and sorrow as I imagined the pain of families who had lost sons, brothers and friends to a campaign of terror. The eyewitness did not stop there. With a tone that mixed frustration and despair, he recalled that ever since the arrest of Biafra Prime Minister Simon Ekpa, the southeastern region had been suffering under a heavy-handed military oppression. It was as if the very spirit of the region was being systematically crushed by an iron fist, leaving a trail of grief and desolation in its wake. The arrest of Biafra Prime Minister Simon Ekpa, a figure who many believed symbolized hope and the struggle for autonomy, marked a turning point. From that moment on, every report, every story, and every whispered conversation carried the weight of oppression. I felt as if the pulse of the land had slowed to a painful rhythm, echoing the countless cries of those who had been silenced. I remember how the narrative soon took on a political dimension that added yet another layer of complexity to the unfolding events. There were strong allegations that the violence and oppression were not accidental or the result of a mere breakdown in discipline. Instead, the accusations pointed directly at Nigerian President Bola Tinubu and General Christopher Musa, suggesting that these high-ranking officials had orchestrated the killings and economic sabotage that had gripped the southeast. The eyewitness and many others in the region believed that these leaders were not acting in the best interests of their people. Rather, they were seen as using the military presence in the southeast, not for genuine security purposes, but as a means to exploit the region's abundant natural resources. This allegation gave the story an edge of political intrigue and betrayal, as it suggested that the suffering of the people was being manipulated for ulterior motives. As I pondered these events, I recalled a video that circulated widely on the internet, a video that was presented by a reporter who spoke in a voice that carried both urgency and a deep-seated pain. The reporter began by greeting his audience in a warm, almost familial way. He said something like, "Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on your time zone. I want to show you a quick video that reveals how the Nigerian army and the Nigerian government administration have been destroying the lives of our youth." His words were delivered not as mere news, but as a personal appeal to anyone who believed in justice and the value of human life. I felt as if I was sitting right there with him, witnessing the unfolding drama in real time. In that video, the reporter recounted the events that had taken place in one of the villages in Orlu, a village that had once been bustling with life and community spirit. He described how the armed forces had stormed into the village, chasing away young men who were simply present at the time. According to his account, the military did not discriminate between those who were combatants and those who were innocent bystanders. Instead, they arrested and even shot individuals who had no connection to the armed struggle other than the unfortunate suspicion that they might be aligned with the Biafran Liberation Army. His voice was filled with indignation as he questioned the logic behind these actions. Why would a military force chase away young men simply because of an assumption rather than tracking down the actual armed fighters hidden in the forests? His words resonated deeply with me, and I found myself repeating his questions in my mind, trying to grasp the sheer injustice of the situation. The reporter's narrative was interwoven with a sense of impending retaliation. He warned that if the violence continued unabated, there would be consequences. He promised that evidence of the military's actions was being collected and that this evidence would someday be used to justify a strong response. I could feel the tension in his voice as he laid out this warning. There was a sense that the people of the region, despite the fear and oppression they had endured for so long, were not willing to remain silent. They were determined to stand up for their rights, to show the world that they would not accept such tyranny without a fight. I remember feeling a surge of hope mixed with apprehension as I realized that what I was hearing was not just a call to action, but also a call for justice that had been deferred for far too long. As the narrative continued, the reporter made a bold allegation that struck a chord with many of those who had long felt betrayed by their government. He claimed that the military presence in the southeast was not about maintaining law and order or protecting the people. Instead, he argued, it was a calculated move to exploit the region's natural resources and to stifle any potential economic growth. This was not merely a matter of military strategy. It was an economic conspiracy that targeted the heart of the region's prosperity. The reporter's words painted a picture of a government that was willing to sacrifice its own people in order to line its pockets and secure its power. I found myself reflecting on the countless times in history when the voices of the oppressed had been drowned out by those in power. It was a familiar story, yet hearing it in the context of my own country filled me with a mix of anger, sadness, and determination to learn more. I thought about the villages that were being described as ghost towns, places where life had once flourished, but where now silence reigned. The imagery was haunting. I could picture empty streets, abandoned homes, and fields that had once been tended with love and care, now left to nature. Families who had built their lives in these villages were being forced to flee, leaving behind not only their possessions, but also their memories and their hope for the future. The destruction of these communities was not just a military operation, it was a cultural and emotional devastation that would take years, if not generations, to repair. I felt a deep sense of loss as I imagined the stories of those who had been uprooted, the history of a place that was slowly being erased by the heavy hand of military oppression. Throughout this entire ordeal, I could not ignore the personal dimension of the narrative. I remembered conversations I had with friends and family who had once spoken of the region with pride, recalling the beauty of its traditions, the warmth of its people, and the rich cultural heritage that had defined their lives. Now, these same people were voicing their fears and their anger, expressing a longing for justice that seemed to grow with every passing day. I felt a connection with them, even though I was far removed from the immediate chaos in Orlu. Their stories, filled with both sorrow and resolve, reminded me that behind every news report and every video clip was a human story, a story of struggle, endurance, and the undying hope that one day justice would prevail. I also remembered a part of the video where the reporter's tone shifted from one of descriptive reporting to a more personal and confrontational appeal. He spoke of the Nigerian army as if it were a force of terror, accusing it of acts that went far beyond the call of duty. His language was strong, and his words were laced with a passion that could only come from someone who had witnessed injustice firsthand. He recounted how, instead of seeking out the real threats that lurked in the forests, the military was instead arresting and even shooting innocent individuals who happened to be present in the villages. The pain in his voice was unmistakable, and as I listened, I felt a deep empathy for the victims of this operation. The video did not present a sanitized version of events. It was raw, it was personal, and it was a cry for help from those who felt abandoned by a government that had lost sight of its duty to protect. There was a moment in the narrative when the reporter mentioned that ever since the removal of Biafra Prime Minister Seaman Ekpa, the entire southeastern region had been under siege. I found this claim both startling and deeply disturbing. The idea that a single political event could unleash a wave of violence and oppression on an entire region was something that I had heard before in the pages of history books, but to see it unfolding in real time was something altogether different. It was a stark reminder that political decisions made in far-off offices and boardrooms could have devastating consequences for ordinary people. The reporter's words echoed in my mind as I thought of the families torn apart by the conflict, the lives that had been lost, and the dreams that had been shattered by a relentless campaign of brutality. I could not help but feel that there was more to this story than just a military confrontation. There was a deep sense of betrayal that permeated every word of the eyewitness accounts and every frame of the video. The people of the region felt that they had been abandoned by the very institutions that were supposed to safeguard their welfare. The military operations, instead of being a response to actual threats, appeared to be a means to an end, a method of ensuring that the region remained subjugated and that its resources were exploited for the benefit of a select few. The reporter's passionate denunciation of Nigerian President Bola Tinubu and General Christopher Musa was not just an expression of anger. It was a call to hold those in power accountable for their actions. I found myself nodding in agreement, even as I grappled with the enormity of the situation. The idea that those entrusted with the highest offices in the nation could be responsible for such widespread suffering was both shocking and deeply unsettling. As the narrative unfolded, I began to reflect on what it meant to be caught in the crossfire of such a conflict. I thought of the young men who were being rounded up from their villages, of the families who were being torn apart by fear and uncertainty, and of the elders who could only watch in despair as the land they had nurtured for generations was being overrun by forces that cared nothing for its history or its people. The reporter's account was not just a chronicle of events. It was a vivid portrayal of a community in distress, a community that was struggling to survive amid a barrage of violence and oppression. I felt as though I was standing alongside them, sharing in their anguish and silently vowing that I would not let their stories be forgotten. There was also a part of the narrative where the reporter spoke about the economic dimensions of the conflict. He argued that the military presence in the southeast was not aimed at quelling an insurgency or restoring order, but at ensuring that the region's natural resources remained under the control of those in power.
Yes, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, pending your time zone and pending your area of domicile this very wonderful morning. Dear friends, I want to show you a quick video on how the Nigerian terrorist army and Tinubu's administration has been destroying the lives of our youth. Now, watch this video and see what I'm saying from here.
Biafran, see or watch the last video we posted here of how the military, including the Asado Dokubo boys, entered into Umuaka, that is in Orlu, local government of Imo State. They entered into the village and start shooting anybody they see on sight. Imagine, how can you be chasing away the young men from the village? And later they will now turn back to say that it was or it is the Biafran Liberation Army that are doing that. Why would you be chasing away any young man you see on sight in a village because you believe that that young man is part of the Biafran Liberation Army? Why you already know where the guys you are looking for are? They are inside the forest, but you cannot go there to fight them. Rather, you are arresting or even shooting at an innocent person that has nothing to do with what you are fighting against. This thing the first Stephen Cross the parallel because of this thing that is happening right now in Imo State and the whole of Biafra. It is not a good sign at all.
Today, since the removal of our Prime Minister, Mr. Simon Ekpa, the Southeast have been under siege for no reason. The Nigerian terrorist government and their army has been destroying lives in the whole of the Southeast, and we can no longer take this. You see, why we are keeping quiet is because when we start, they should not label us a terrorist. When we start, let the world not say, oh, we have started what we destroyed the Southeast. I want you to understand that Nigeria is killing our people. Nigerian terrorist army are still in our land, killing our people. And we are going to come out for them. And we are going to come out for them. And I'm telling you the simple truth. So I want the world to watch this video. That this is how they come, they kidnap our youth, they force them out of their villages, out of their homes, and kill them and throw their body in the lake. This is what they have been doing since this year. Tinubu can never go scot-free. Musa can never go scot-free. With all these killings in the whole of the Southeast, you could see armored tankers moving around the whole of the Southeast where there is no insurgency, where there is no insurgents, where there are no war going on. I do not know what General Christopher Musa is looking for in the whole of the Southeast. If not for our mineral resources, if not to make sure there is no economic growth in the whole of the Southeast. So this is what Musa has been doing in the Southeast, and we are warning you, General Christopher Musa, to remove your terrorist army, because we are going to be retaliating. If we start retaliating, let the world not come after us, because we are showing you evidences and pictures of what these animals are doing in our land, and they have not responded to it, and nobody's responding to it. And it's very, very, very bad that we are here trying to defend our people, and some other people are sabotaging this struggle. Please, we are putting the world on a red notice that our state, our country, our United State of Biafra is under siege by the Nigerian terrorist army and the Nigerian terrorist police force. So we are asking Musa to kindly remove all his terrorist soldiers from our land. Thank you so much, and may God bless you. But if you don't, we will meet up with your match very soon. Believe that.
Stephen Cross has warned Musa to take off all his men from Biafran land, including Asori Dokubo, that he should withdraw the remaining of his men out from Biafran land, else the Biafran land will surely consume them. No be small thing where they happen. I'm telling you. You can see the streets in Umaka very empty. The young men or women there has run away because they are sorry the Kubo boys and the Musa boys not send anybody. I'm telling you, the village is almost empty.
nwere ụzọ bọtọrọla onwe ya dịka ọ na-osi ahụ ebe amadị ikpe ha nọ. Ebe na chọọchị Ugbule, as you can see, owu onye ada ahụzi n'ụzọ. Nke a mission Ugbule. Na Canton go that back. Ndị gọọmenti si na ha na-echekwa obodo, tọtọrọla obodo laa n'iyi. ụzọ Amakọ road, mission Ugbule, chọọchị Ugbule. So atọ kwala m na-alaghachi ebe ime ike Ugbule nọ, ebe onye ihe ha ghost zone ka mgbe niile. Ọ dị egwu onye ahụ ga n'obodo ile anya ihe ọnwụba replay station. Ke wagawazi umwele ozoba gawazi umwele ihe umwele one worst ebu eke egbe na ara now ebu eke egbe na ara ebe ahụ worst. Hụna ihe ile mgbawara aka mgbe ma owu ofu mkpụrụ mmadụ ịgada ahụ n'ụzọ ma owu ofu mkpụrụ. Saịdị onye ma obi ha and ebe Algeria na-agba pool ị gaghị ahụ ofu mkpụrụ mmadụ. Ghost zone, pure ghost zone, heading to Siemens Umuele now. wee hụ na nye ya na semensi ụmụele ofu mkpụrụ mmadụ enweghị ya n'ụzọ nwere ka ntọnọ m ebelawa.
Now the Ladipo market in Lagos, that is the Ladipo spare parts market, is on fire. This is the remaining of the goods that we are got from this fire outbreak. Now the question is, who is setting this fire on people's shops?
Everything don't burn. Everything don't burn. Everything don't burn. What's the matter? Billions of naira, billions.
So guys, it's almost 2 weeks and counting that the NAFDAC of Nigeria sealed all medicine drug dealers market in Nigeria, starting from Lagos down to Aba and to Onitsha.
Every year, last year was Roland. Here, Baroko by pieces. And what do you put here? Bakana Bendi Bonazaya. Last 2 years was Agironsi International Market. Here, Baroko. And what do you put here? So, get it on my government. So, because Batara Nandi boss a marker. Nobody on email. What does the conquer or the teacher? Whatever about cousin Abraham Handy in Lagos State. And with many markets. Roboda. But now Ahandibo, Aboko. Emek de Kuro, Unduku, Oya Butaya, Rescue Wayana, Unduku, they were about to know some mother.
When the BBC came here to interview me, I think 3 days ago or yesterday, I don't even know. I told them that if I have the number of Governor Soludo, I will congratulate him for such move. That is a divine move. What he's doing is what should have been done for a long time. Because these native doctors and witch doctors in Anambra and Oyibo land, they are systematically destroying our belief, our way of life. Igbo people believe in hard work. They are known in hard work all over the world. But this set of people doing native doctor and witch doctors, they will tell you that, come, let me do a kit for you, and you will have money. And because of that, our people are no longer working, majority, believing in no kill, that is fake. Some of them will tell you, carry cocaine, I will do a kit, they will not arrest you, they will not see you. And because of that, many of our people that believe them have been arrested into drug trafficking. Many of them are in prison in different countries today. This set of native doctors will tell you, if you're a I will give you a charm that will make customers to become. So they are promoting evil in our land. And so what the governor of Anambra State is doing, His Excellency Governor Charles Soludo, what he's doing is encourageable. Somebody like me, I'm happy. I am the one who started the fight of Okite. I am the one who started burning Okite. I preached about it last 3 years. So all the boys who have done that Okite, they keep bringing them to Zion and we keep burning them. Our sister that was buried in Obosi, her husband's house, at night, they went to the place, they carried the same girl they buried, took her to Okija Shrine. We went there, opened the ground, we see nothing. The girl was saying that the video she saw in Okija Shrine was the video of her sister that was buried few days ago. How come they went there to carry the body without informing the villagers that Arusi killed? Till now, they tried to cover that case, but very soon that case will surface again. Because the girl, the dead body is still in Okija Shrine. We made a video about it. The evidence is there that we went there and opened the grave with the video and we saw no dead body. So I've been number one fighting against such acts. So what the governor is doing, everybody should encourage him and support him. Those boys are destroying our land. They are the one doing charm, okit and wite, to many criminals, telling them that if they shoot them, it will not.
This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.